Good evening, friends. Welcome to today's practice alert discussion. In spite of heavy rain, ಮಳೆರಾಯನ ಅಬ್ಬರ ಇದ್ದರೂ ಸಹಿತ ಅದನ್ನು ಲೆಕ್ಕಿಸದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಆಸಕ್ತಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಮೆಚ್ಚಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ವಿಷಯಾಸಕ್ತಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಹೀಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಲೆಕ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಕಲಿಯುವಂತಹ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಇದ್ದವರು ಏನಿದ್ರೂ ಜಗತ್ತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿಸಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಹೇಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೇ ಸಾಕ್ಷಿ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ತುಂಬ ಹೃದಯದಿಂದ ನಿಮ್ಮನ್ನು ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ ಇವತ್ತು. To talk on this subject, customs and excise updates, we have got eminent personalities, and I extend warm welcome to both of you, Raghuraman and Raghavendra, and I request Arama Prabhu, the chairman of our branch, to welcome the dignitaries, the speakers, with flowers. Friends, before starting this today's session, I would like to mention that we are arranging that intensive workshop on international taxation on 1st and 3rd Saturday of every month. And first of this meeting is going to start on 20th June. Please make note of the same. And as a prerequisite, we are also conducting a basic refresher course on the same subject in the form of a workshop on 5th and 6th June. It is full day program. So I request you to make note of that and also make use of the benefit of this program. And coming to today's program, I take the privilege to introduce both the speakers as may be suitable, because it's my privilege to introduce C.A.Raghavendra. C.A.C.R.Raghavendra is a chartered accountant. Not only that, he is also an advocate. He has done his practice as a chartered accountant for 7 years and has moved to practice as an advocate after that. His passion is to provide legal profession. He has done his LLB also from C.A.V.Raghuraman Law College. More interesting thing that I have noticed is he is practicing in the area of excise, customs, service tax, foreign trade policy, and foreign exchange management act. As a specialist in the field of indirect taxation, he appears frequently before the appellate authorities, tribunal, and high courts, and specializes in the indirect tax planning and handling litigations. He has addressed several seminars at various places, including ICAI, FKCCI, NASIN and CAG. You may have to explain more because I am not. Okay. He has published various papers in the journals of the Southern India Regional Council of the Institute, Bengal branch, and he has regularly contributed updates on the indirect taxes in the Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association Journal. He has co-authored a book on landmark cases in indirect taxes, published by CCH India, and he has got a lot of recognitions for his valuable services rendered to the profession. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome him. Coming to Raghuraman, all of you know I don't have to do much introduction, but one special thing I would like to mention which none of you know, because I came to know about a couple of minutes back. ಅವರು ಚಾರ್ಟರ್ಡ್ ಅಕೌಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಹೌದು, ಚಾರ್ಟರ್ಡ್ ಅಕೌಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ICW ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಹೌದು, ICW ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟೀಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿ ಹೌದು, ಕಂಪ್ನಿ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿ ಆಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಯ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಸ್ಟ್ರಾಲಜರ್ ಆಗಿ ಪುಸ್ತಕವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಅವರು ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ತಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಈ ವಿಷಯ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಆಸ್ಟ್ರಾಲಜರ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವರು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ LLB ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅಡ್ವೊಕೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅವರ ಪರಿಚಯ ಇದೆ, ಆದರೆ ಆಸ್ಟ್ರಾಲಜರ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಪುಸ್ತಕವನ್ನು ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ 20 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ತುಂಬಾ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗಿದೆ ನಮಗೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಲೇಡೀಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಜೆಂಟ್ಲ್ಮೆನ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಮಿ ಟು ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಯು ಅಗೇನ್. ಓವರ್ ಟು ಯು ಸರ್.
Good evening to all of you. Today we we have assembled to give you the practice updates on Central Excise and Customs. In the last few months, there have been lot of decisions coming from the Supreme Court on Central Excise matters and valuation matters in customs. So we thought that we will update you on the recent case laws that have come in the Supreme Court on Central Excise and Customs, because there have been the bench has been very active in deciding. Number of decisions have come in this area. What would surprise many people is that many of the decisions are relating to fundamental concepts like manufacture. So that means even after the legislation was made in 1944, even after 60 years, I would say 71 years to be precise, even after so many years, we have not been able to conclude what is manufacturing. And once you see the decisions that have been discussed by Mr. Raghavendra, you will realize that probably the decision could have been something else also. Because it is the Supreme Court, it has become final. Probably it could be different. So another set of judges, another forum, it could be different judgment. So what we will do in the course of the next 1.5 hours or 2 hours is we will go through each of the important case laws that have appeared in the last 3 or 6 months in the field of excise and customs and update you on the, keep you up to date on the case law development in these two fields. So I request Mr. Raghavendra to please take the session.
In this session, as mentioned by Raghuraman, we will start discussing the important decisions, mostly by Supreme Court. There are 2 decisions of Tribunal and High Court also. And first we will start with the decisions on the Central Excise. And just to give an introduction about the Central Excise, on the basis of which we will cater to the Supreme Court decision. This is the some of the highlights of the Central Excise. I will not take much time on this. Straight away, I will go to the definition of the manufacture, just for the understanding of the case laws which we will. This is the definition of the term manufacture as per Central Excise Act, which is inclusively defined in 3 clauses. Clause 1, incidental and ancillary to the completion of a manufacture of a product. And clause 2, which is an activity which is specified in section or chapter notes of the tariff. And third, relates to those goods which are listed in the 3rd schedule to Central Excise Act, where you do an activity of packing, repacking, labeling, relabeling, etc. Only these 3 activities are inclusively defined as manufacture under Central Excise Act 1944. But as the definition is on inclusive basis, the various courts have examined the term manufacture in detail, and one of the landmark decisions on the manufacture is DCM case, which is 1 ELD in the year 1977, and this particular definition is the landmark definition which has been taken from American courts, and it reads like this: manufacture implies a change, but every change is not a manufacture. Yet every change of an article is a result of a treatment, labor and manipulation. but something more is necessary and there must be a transformation, and which results in a new product having distinct name, character or use. So this decision you have to remember, because most of the decisions which we are going to see in the next slides are based on the fundamental categorical decision of the Supreme Court in DCM case. We will start with the first decision for this updates, which is the case of Satnam Overseas Limited. What I will do is, in these case law discussions, I am going to briefly discuss about the facts of the case and the decision, so that Sir can comment on each of the decisions which is being discussed. The first one is this Satnam Overseas Limited. The facts are very interesting. Here, the manufacturer, the appellant manufacturer, was manufacturing a product called rice and spice, wherein he was mixing the raw rice and dehydrated vegetables with certain spices which are grounded into a powder form and mixed with the raw rice and the vegetables, dehydrated vegetables, and he was packaging it in a pouch after sterilizing it with heat, etc. The question was whether this activity of mixing raw rice, dehydrated vegetables and spice, grounded spice powder, whether it amounts to manufacture. There is also a second issue in the case where department is contesting the classification adopted by the assessee. Assessee is saying it's the product of milling industry, because rice remains classified under chapter 11, therefore nil rate of duty is there. But department is contesting that it falls under chapter 21.08 as a miscellaneous edible preparations. And in this background, Supreme Court held that mere mixing, the activity of mere mixing does not amount to manufacture. Now you go back to the decision which I just read out from DCM. Mere change is not enough. There must be something more. There must be a transformation from the original product, and a new product having a distinct character or use and identity should emerge. Mere process which results in some change is not sufficient to term it as manufacture. I think one more quote which is used in DCM case I would like to mention here. They are quoting from the American judgment. They have said this: process and manufacture go hand in hand, and in future they will merge. But as long as the product retains the substantial identification of the original product, it cannot be termed as manufacture even after processing. Only when it loses its original characteristics, it can be termed as manufacture. I think in this background, I let Mr. Raghavendra.
Just go back to that slide of definition of manufacture. See, you are seeing three distinct clauses over here. Manufacture includes any process incidental or ancillary to the completion of a manufactured product. This is how it was. This is the clause that was relevant in Satnam Overseas Limited. The other two clauses were not relevant because they were not examined. Those notes were not applicable, probably. There is no tax on value addition in this country, strictly speaking. Tax is only on manufacture, tax is on rendering services, tax is on importation. Value addition is not subjected to tax. Because value addition was not subjected to tax, they bought in the second clause. where they said if some process is deemed to be manufactured, then tax will have to be paid on the ground that it is manufactured. So you had various section notes which were inserted. For example, saying galvanization amounts to manufacture. Though galvanization does not change the characteristic of the product at all. Strictly speaking, in DCM's case, they said if there is the transformation is not there, there is no manufacture. To plug that, they started introducing notes into many of the tariffs. To say, for example, there was a case before the Punjab and Haryana High Court in Darshan Singh Pavitra Singh's case. This is in 1988, which said bodybuilding of chassis on the chassis is not manufactured. Bodybuilding of a vehicle on chassis is not manufactured. So they inserted this note to say bodybuilding amounts to manufacture. Then what was happening? A situation came where people used to have a major difference between the price at which they sold and the manufacturing cost and profit. This was because there were a lot of overheads which are being incurred, and so the retail sale price would be different from what is being sold, what is being cleared from the factory. So they brought about the third schedule, where they said that certain goods they may deem even packing, repacking, labeling as amounting to manufacture. Though packing, repacking will not amount to manufacture in general, because no change happens. They deemed certain processes to amount to manufacture. In this case, we are not concerned with the first, second and third, we are concerned only with the first. Because during that time, these 2 and 3 were not there. So this case will have to be read carefully, because if in the meanwhile now the tariff has been changed, let us say, they have inserted a chapter note saying mixing of rice with vegetables amounts to manufacture, then tax will have to be paid. Here there is one more reason why the Supreme Court held so. They said that when you put in this rice, it is raw rice only. Everything is in raw state. You are mixing everything in raw state, then it goes for cooking. It has to be cooked, then only it is transformed. It is not transformed before cooking. So therefore there is no manufacture. This is another reason which they gave in Satnam overseas. So this judgment will be, will have to be referred to for most purposes, but if the chapter notes have been plugged in the meanwhile, then this judgment will not be applicable for the years after that.
Yes. Well, Supreme Court has referred to 3 decisions, very important 3 decisions. I would like Mr. Raghuraman sir to comment on these 3 briefly. Number 1 is crane beetle nut, where Supreme Court had held the beetle nut in the whole form does not change merely because it is powdered and flavor is added and packed into a small pouches. There is no manufacture. And the second was bio-food packers, where pineapple was cut into pieces and put in a can with a sugar solution for storage purposes. And third was Lalji Godo case, where asafoetida in a raw form was converted by heating into a compound of asafoetida. In all these 3, similar to the present one, there was an operation, but it did not change the characteristics.
So essentially it is this way. If the original product does not undergo a change into a completely different commercial product, there is no manufacture. Manufacture can arise if commercially the output is different from the input. Now how do you decide this? The this is why even today we are debating about manufacture and we are having case laws going up to the Supreme Court, because my point of view may be different from your point of view. Pineapple taken as a fruit, you market it and it is sold as a fruit. Now I buy it, I peel off the entire thing, cut it to pieces, put it in preservative, sell it. The person who goes to buy definitely knows that this is pineapple and this is pineapple slices. In today's, when biofood packers was decided, this was decided about 35 years back. Today, if the same decision comes, I am not sure if the same decision will come out from the Supreme Court, because that process has transformed this pineapple actually into a different commercial product. Even though they say pineapple remains pineapple, this is what the Supreme Court says. Concepts have changed worldwide. If you see Oracle's case, Supreme Court has said if a product is made into something else to suit another consumer, then it becomes manufactured. So suitability to consumer can also decide what is manufactured. So this is why we have so many decisions which are back and forth, going up and down. All the three decisions which you referred to were essentially this, that the product does not change. The end use may change, but the product does not change. So Supreme Court itself has been going between these two concepts. One concept that if the consumer, if you change it to the taste the consumer, it may amount to manufacture. This is only one decision, it is Oracle's decision. Rest of all the decisions say, if the product does not get transformed into a different commercial product, known distinctively by its name, character and use, there is no question of manufacturing arising. I would think that we have to stick to the law which has been made by the Supreme Court and reiterated so many times. Oracle is an exception. The law which is made today is that if there is no distinctive character or use, there is no manufacture.
Oracle software is an income tax decision.
With all that, the term manufacture was discussed.
And under the section 80 IA, they have discussed the manufacture.
Correct. The concept of manufacture remains the same. There is also a difference between production and manufacture. Production is a term which is wider. You can produce things, it need not transform into a different item. N.C. Buddhiraja's case, again income tax case.
What clinched in favor of the assessee in this case is the cooking, as sir mentioned. In this case, the package of this rice and spice mentions cooking instructions. Therefore, Supreme Court held that raw rice, even after mixing, has remained a rice. Therefore, it gets classified under Chapter 11, which is nil rated. Rather than it cannot be termed as a manufactured product, because in order to transform it to a new product, it has to be cooked, which will be done by a customer after purchasing. Therefore, it was decided in favor of the assessee. But as was being mentioned, these cases are very old, and about 26 cases we will be discussing today, all were reported in last 2 to 3 months time. Please remember, all the civil appeals are dated 2001 to 2003, and the proceedings were started in the 1990s, and this is the time gap which we are seeing. Even though these decisions are 2015 decision by Supreme Court, these goes back to about 20 years. Next decision is the case of Maruti Suzuki, is also on the definition of manufacture, but here the issue is pretty simple. Here the company is procuring, in fact it is receiving the bumpers and grills under the job of challans and undertaking a process called EDC, electro deposition coating, which is anti-rust treatment, which is done for long lasting life. And subsequent to this process, the same is being cleared by reversing the credit originally availed by the company. And department contested this and demanded duty on the value addition. And Supreme Court, this is a very brief decision, not much discussion unlike Satnam Overseas case, but it has held as the assessee has followed the jobber procedure and has reversed the input away after the process is done. The process of anti-rust treatment, EDC, does not transform the bumpers and grills into a new product. It upholds the same principle that the products have not undergone change. There is no transformation. Bumper remains a bumper even after the anti-rust treatment. Therefore, it held that this process does not amount to manufacture.
Essentially, reiteration of the same principle. Rusting, anti-rust will allow it to enhance its life. What the Supreme Court said was, mere value addition does not amount to manufacture. This is what I mentioned in the earlier thing. Merely adding value to a product does not amount to manufacture.
One more decision which is quoted by Supreme Court in this decision is S.R. Tissues. In S.R. Tissues case, the issue before the Supreme Court was the napkins and tissues which we use, that was in the jumbo roll form, was being cut into smaller sizes for the customers. The question was whether cutting the tissues into a smaller size, whether it amounts to manufacture. Supreme Court held in that case that it does not amount to manufacture, because tissue remains tissue whether in large size or in small size.
True, but same thing in Course India's case for that rolls of what do you call that?
Stationery.
That one they said it amounts to manufacture.
There are contraries.
So if you see, even at the Supreme Court level, there is a difference of perception as to what is manufactured. That is why you have had so many cases in Central Excise. Even now we are discussing manufacture after 70 years, as I was telling you. Because we also are not clear. If a given set of facts, it really depends on how the judge views whether something is manufactured or not manufactured. It is a little difficult even for us to advise a client that this is manufactured or this is not manufactured. We will go by one set of principles. Those principles may change. Today the principles are this, tomorrow 5 years down the line the principles of judging something may change. International trend may be different. Value addition may become taxable. Today it is not taxable. Tomorrow it becomes taxable. When GST comes, supply value addition becomes taxable. So the basis of law itself may change over a period of time.
Next decision is Escorts Limited's case. Here one interesting proposition by the department is that this Escorts company is the manufacturer of tractors, vehicle. While in the process of manufacture of tractors, it is alleged by the department that there is an emergence of product called transmission assembly in the course of manufacture of tractors. Therefore, the company should pay duty on the intermediate product which emerges during the manufacturing process, even though it is not sold as a transmission assembly, a gear transmission assembly, which emerges during the intermediate process. And the department demanded duty on the transmission assembly, even though company was paying excise duty on the tractors as a final product. And interestingly, this particular proposition and demand by the department was upheld by the Supreme Court. It held that even though the company is not selling the transmission assembly to any of the customers, it is irrelevant. They have said that actual sale is irrelevant, but in the market, transmission assembly is known as a separate intermediate product. Therefore, it is marketable and hence liable to duty.
In this case, actually, what happened was, fortunately, Supreme Court held that the extended period could not be invoked, and therefore much of the duty demand went off. So finally, the assessee need not have to pay the duty amount, because there was confusion in the minds of the department also whether it is taxable or not taxable. What went against the assessee was the statements of the assessee saying that the transmission assembly is known. Otherwise, in my view, transmission assembly as a product is never known or sold in the market. In fact, in this case, it was noted that in Escorts was never ever selling or even attempted to sell a transmission assembly. If that be the case, actually because of the statements it went against them. Otherwise, this case would have probably been decided in another set of facts. It would have gone in favor of the assessee. Because to my knowledge, nobody sells transmission assemblies. It is assembled.
One more point which went against the company here is, when there was a sister concern of Escorts tractors, another company, they were selling, and just prior to 2 years there was an exemption for tractors, and they were selling the transmission assembly to sister concern and reversing, because it was exempted, reversing the modified credit under the present Rule 6, which was earlier in a similar mechanism. That fact went against the company.
In fact, that fact should have gone in favor of the company. For simple reason that they are reversing only the credit, that means they are not manufacturing anything. That should have been used to show that we are not manufacturing transmission assemblies. As we understand, it's not a manufactured product. Otherwise, what would have happened? I wouldn't have reversed the net credit. I would have paid tax on it. That should have been used in their favor, but it somehow went against them.
Sir, may I discuss one decision here, JG Glass, which is very important, and Supreme Court relied upon JG Glass. The facts of the case is very simple. JG Glass is manufacturing, is in fact printing on the bottles, glass bottles. In this background, Supreme Court gave two tests. That I would like to read those two tests. First, whether by the said process a different commercial commodity comes into existence. Test number 1. Next, second one, whether commodity which was already in existence will serve no purpose for the said activity. That means merely by printing on the glass, whether glass after printing or without printing, whether the glass will have no purpose to serve. That was the decision in JG Glass.
Huh?
It is used by some other company or user, it is not used.
No, the test was whether glass transforms into a different product. That is number 1, after printing. Second one is whether merely by printing the original product loses its characters.
Both don't, so there is no manufacturing. Simple. That was the decision in JG Glass was.
It's amounts to manufacture.
It doesn't amount to manufacturing. Because just putting a printed label on a glass, you are not changing the glass. One. Another thing is, whether you print or not, the glass is usable. It retains its utility. By merely printing, you don't change its utility into something else. That is what was the ratio of the decision in JG Glass industry. But if you look at certain other decisions where for classification, it changes. Product of printing industry or packaging industry. There you have for classification different tests are there.
Next case is again on the manufacture, but very interesting case. Here the facts are something like this. Disposable syringes. The company is buying the syringes in bulk, and it is sterilizing individual syringes with additional attachments and packing in plastic pouches and selling it. The department demanded duty, alleging that the process of sterilization and packing it in pouches amounts to manufacture. Company is not manufacturing the syringes, it is buying the syringes in bulk, sterilizing it and packing it in plastic pouches and selling. Therefore, the issue was whether the process of sterilization amounts to manufacture and whether the said process is essential to complete the manufacture before it is sold in the market. These were the two questions, and rightly Supreme Court said that if sterilization activity is termed as manufacture, then in any hospital syringes may be sterilized 5 times a day. Then each time it is sterilized, it will result in manufacture. I think by that and applying the principles of JG glass, Supreme Court held that it does not amount to manufacture. One decision, even though it is an old one, why it is being discussed is now this excise duty rate has been now increased to 12.5 without education cess from 1/3/2015, and in this case H&M Limited's case, Supreme Court had said that even though the dutiability depends on the date of manufacture, as far as the rate of duty is concerned, it is at the time of removal. The decision of Wallace Flour Mills also is quoted in this decision. Next issue is on the issue of recovery of duty under central excise. The question is whether any recovery of excise duty under the central excise proceedings, whether section 11A, which relates to recovery procedure by way of issuing the show cause notice, whether it is mandatory to be followed by the department. And interestingly, in this case, there was a retrospective amendment by Finance Act of 2003, where new section 154 retrospectively demanded duty on, and that particular amendment by 2003 Finance Act was upheld by the Supreme Court decision in 2005 in the RC Tobacco's case. And in that background, the appellant contested before the Supreme Court, saying that even though there is a simple notice referring to section 154 of 2003 Act, department should have issued me a proper show cause notice under section 11A. Therefore, this proceeding, recovery proceedings itself is illegal and liable to be quashed. However, even though Supreme Court has dealt at length about the principles of natural justice and the requirement that section 11A is the primary requirement for recovery and show cause notice is a must, all that discussion is done. However, finally they have concluded that considering the fact that there is a simple notice and also the fact that there is a retrospective amendment by 2003 Act, it should not be a useless formality. Therefore, on the facts of this case alone, they have said that issue of show cause notice is not necessary.
This is a paradoxical situation actually, because they have construed a simple notice as a show cause notice and said yes, something has been issued, so it is a show cause notice. Essentially, it is this point of law was this: you have a retrospective amendment. Now, that amendment makes something payable which was not payable at that point of time. Now, if I don't get any duty demand from the department, just because there is a retrospective amendment, do I have to automatically pay? Or should I wait for a demand to happen? That is the case. The Supreme Court said even if there is a retrospective amendment, demand should be there. The reason I will also tell you, which I don't know if they have referred to in this decision, any retrospective amendment can be challenged as being unreasonable. If it goes back to a period when very long back when your dues and other adjustments have happened between you and the consumers. To have a demand for 10 years, 20 years would cripple an industry, so it would become unreasonable. There is a decision of the Supreme Court in JK Industries case 99 EAT where they say 11A time limits have to be adhered to, that is the 6 months or 1 year as the case may be. If it is not adhered to, the retrospective amendment will become unreasonable. If I say removal amounts to, removal in a factory amounts to removal, that such an amendment was brought about retrospectively, in 1982 from to 1944, 38 years. If you are going back 38 years, it is totally unreasonable, it has to be struck down. But because 11A is there and it restricts the demand to 6 months as it then was, it was held to be reasonable. So from that context, if you see, all these things, the law is that you should have a demand notice which is issued. And the demand notice will be restricted to the period of whatever is there.
That issue is addressed. There was a separate question of law which said that RC Tobacco Co. was not in conflict with the JK.
Correct.
It was answered in favor of the department.
Correct. But see, with all said and done, RC Tobacco did not go into the reasonableness of this. No demand notice was issued that time. They should have probably gone into that in a little more depth.
Next issue is interesting and it's a small decision on facts. The facts were like this. SSC has sold manufactured goods for about, let us say, 1,120 rupees as per the contract and purchase order, and subsequently the customer, which is a government body, electricity board, revised it to a lower rate of 600 rupees per meter, and therefore there was a reduction in the value, and this happened after the duty is discharged on clearance of the goods to the customer. Therefore, the SSC filed a refund claim for the differential duty which was paid in excess on the basis of the original contract amount, and this was being denied by the department, saying that it is in the penal nature. Electricity department had penalized the SSC, therefore there is no provision for reduction in penalty. All that plea was taken, but Supreme Court negatived it, saying that SSC is entitled for the refund because there is a reduction in the contract price. Sir.
The principle here is that when there is a reduction in the contract price, even if I have removed it at an original price and paid duty, when there is a reduction, the issue is whether the electricity board has reimbursed me that excise duty or not. If they have not reimbursed, the question of which they wouldn't have done here because the rate has been reduced. The question of unjust enrichment doesn't come, and therefore refund will have to be granted. On that premise, this refund was granted.
Next case, wheel rubber products, relates to an SSI exemption. As you are aware, SSI exemption presently stands at 1.5 crores. There is a primary condition to be fulfilled, that your previous year's sale of the manufactured product should be less than 4 crores. Now, earlier it was 3 crores. Now, the facts of this particular case was Assassi is manufacturing his own branded rubber products, rubber bushes in the brand name of Vir. Apart from that, he is also manufacturing the same rubber bushes for other automobile manufacturers like Honda, Hindustan Motors and Fiat with their brand name. Kinetic Honda or Fiat, Hindustan Motors, etc. Now, the department's allegation here is for demanding duty and denying the SSI. They wanted to include the sales made under the brand name to arrive at the previous year's turnover, saying that if we include the branded goods turnover with your own manufacture, it will be more than 300 lakhs. Therefore, you are not entitled for SSI exemption. But as per the facts, Assassi has been computing only his own turnover under his own brand name VIR and has taken a position that because it is less than 300 lakhs, I am eligible for SSI exemption. And interestingly, Supreme Court, relying upon the earlier decisions, held that if an Assassi is clearing the goods of the brand name belonging to another person, that particular turnover is not includable for computing the previous year's turnover.
This was actually plugged in this subsequent years from same factory. Issue is like this: supposing I manufacture this bottle in my factory, I put this Bailey. I put Bailey, somebody's brand name. I also put my own brand name, which is here Vir. I put my own brand name Vir. So I sell two bottles, one Vir, one Bailey. The notification is so worded that if I use the brand name of another person, I have to pay excise duty on it. So what I did was, if I have to pay excise duty on this, to compute my turnover for which I am eligible for the 300 lakhs, I cannot take this into account because I am already paying excise duty on this. I need to take the turnover of only Vir, and if that is below 300 lakhs, I don't need to pay excise duty. Department wanted to club this too, while having taken the excise duty on this, they would club this too and take excise duty on this also. This was what they were trying to do. This was negative by the Supreme Court.
Next decision is also on SSI exemption, but here facts were very simple. There was an assignment of production given by a Tata company to Tubes and Structurals Assassi here, and they were not affixing the brand name on the product, but in the invoice they were mentioning manufactured for Tata. Assassi took a stance that as I am not affixing the brand name on the products, I am not manufacturing products bearing brand name. It was not the word earlier, it was bearing was subsequently amended. Now, however, the Supreme Court held that in view of the amendment, then in the year 1994, even if you are mentioning the brand name in the invoice, it will get covered under the restriction of using the brand name of another person, and therefore SSI exemption is denied in this case.
It's actually an unfortunate decision because it is like this, as I told you here, I have affixed the brand name on the goods. Affixed means I am putting it on the goods. In the goods or on the goods, that's what the notification says. Now, this was replaced with the words bearing a brand name. Which should bear the brand name? Goods. Goods should bear the brand name. Now, affixing means I am fixing it on that. Bearing means I can even package it with the brand name. Please, that is what it was meant actually. It is not as if to say that if I sell the goods without any brand name, but my invoice has a brand name, can you say the goods are bearing a brand name? So this decision, it relies on an earlier decision, Australian Foods case also. I believe both these decisions, with great respect, I think are not correct. For the reason that the goods, whether you affix a brand name or it bears a brand name, it should have a brand name on it. When I take the goods here, I know, yes, this is Bailey's. Ultimately, a consumer doesn't see the invoice. Please understand this. Consumer does not see the invoice. Consumer sees the goods. If the goods don't have a brand name, there is no value to it. So I think the Supreme Court has stretched this too far and gone beyond the goods and saying if it is there on the invoice, I will disallow you. If it is displayed on the showroom, I will disallow you. This is carrying it too far. So I think this judgment is clearly wrong.
Law is not like this.
Huh?
Excise should mention that so and so goods is manufactured under so and so name.
Why was this brand name actually bought in? I will tell you why. What is the reason why it was bought in?
Enhancing the.
Huh?
Enhancing the.
No. It is simple.
Contract.
Britannia would manufacture biscuits in its factory. It has to pay excise duty. What would Britannia do? It will hire out 100 small scale people, tell them you manufacture. You manufacture and give me. So they'll split the turnover into 100 people and get Britannia manufactured at 100 small scale, all below 100 lakhs as it then was. Everybody used to do that. To plug this, they said, if you are manufacturing using a brand name of another person, you will not get this exemption. So all the job workers lost their exemption because they were putting the brand name of Britannia. This was why this exemption notification was introduced. No. Ultimately, Britannia only is penalized. Please understand. Ultimately, Britannia buys from them, they have to pay excise duty. Reimburse the excise duty to the job workers. Simple.
If
This was what was done. This was what was done. If you affix the brand name, you will have to pay duty. Why? Because ultimately the consumer gets Britannia biscuits. It is made by somebody else, but they don't know. They see the brand Britannia, they are not seeing the invoices. They see the biscuit. Oh, Britannia, very good, and eat. How it is manufactured, what is done, nobody knows.
But in pharma industry, they are avoiding it. They are say like medicines names, for example, say Bicosur. What they do is, Bicosur trademark is assigned to some other company.
Yes, that is true.
that is slightly different. It's a loan licensee.
No, not one license.
No, assignment.
Assignment.
Trademark is assigned.
See, the law is this Vikshara trading, there is a decision of the Supreme Court. If you have assigned the brand name, it is valid.
So because in that way, what they do?
No. Assignment of brand name means that I am transferring the brand name to the.
Agreed. But what happened? Again to bring back, because the consumer will not know who is it, because by simply they say marketed by Pfizer.
Exactly. That what happened in Grasim Industries case, Supreme Court said if you use marketed by, you lose the exemption. If you say manufactured by XYZ, marketed by Britannia, you lose the exemption because the goods are bearing the brand name. Grasim Industries case, Supreme Court. They have said no. So that they plugged off.
But earlier it was being done.
Earlier, yes, all these are case laws. The very fact it is gone up to Supreme Court says there are case laws. People have done it.
Next case is Oswald Chemicals and Fertilizers case. This issue relates to refund claim under Central Excise, which is governed by Section 11B. Briefly, this Section 11B provides for claiming of refund of duties paid in excess or due to any other reason, and it has got two things. One is time limit. Earlier 6 months was there and subsequently increased to 1 year. 1 year time limit. And secondly, in the year 1991, the concept of unjust enrichment was also introduced in the provisions of section 11B. That itself is a dispute. 1 year from the relevant date.
What is that relevant date?
Relevant date, generally a date of payment, that's the last residual clause. But apart from that, there are so many, many clauses which define relevant date, depending on whether it is
Filing of returns,
filing of return or exported.
exports. When you get the let export order as far as exports are concerned. So each one there is a relevant clause. None of those clauses are satisfied, the relevant date will be date of payment of duty. That way.
And this particular section 11B is also made applicable to service tax and the SENVAT credit claim also. But here in this case, the issue was, first issue was very simple, whether buyer is also entitled to claim refund of central excise. Manufacturer is the assessee and he has paid excise duty and cleared the goods to a customer, and customer having paid certain duties which is in excess. In this case the normal duty was 15%. There was certain exemption available to that petroleum product, and BPCL and Indian Oil Corporation cleared the goods at the rate of 15%, and the customer after purchasing it realized it that there is excess duty has been paid by these oil companies without claiming the exemption notification, and the issue here was whether the buyer is entitled to claim exemption, refund claim under section 11B. For this, Supreme Court held that in affirmative way that buyer is also entitled to claim refund under section 11B, subject to the condition of unjust enrichment, that he has not passed on the duty impact to the any other person. So,
see, in this case what happened was, one problem was there. Relevant date in 11B says you should claim the duty within 6 months from the date of purchase. Supposing I have sold, Colgate has sold toothpaste to you. Section 11B says any person can claim refund, which includes the purchaser, legally possible. But you should file the claim within 6 months of purchase, as it then was. Now the issue is, will the consumer of a toothpaste ever know what Colgate is paying excise duty, whether it is paying exemption or it is going, it is taking 20% or 10% or 15%? How will they know? That is one side of it. Here what happened was, the person knew that he was claiming an exemption, but filed the appeal. He filed the appeal beyond that period of 6 months. So the Supreme Court said that even assuming that you have the date of, you should have filed the, it was paid under protest. Let us say all this is under protest. Filing an appeal is also protesting. You should have taken action within the time period which was there, which is date of purchase. When you purchased within the 6 months, you should have filed the appeal. Claims. Having not done so, you lose the right of refund. So legally answering yes, but you are not adding time frame. It's a very, even the provision is impractical, because I will not know when the manufacturer, if he is claiming an exemption, what duty is paying. How will I know as a consumer? I will never know. So this 11B provision where the purchaser can claim a refund of duty is virtually impractical.
that payment under protest is very important here in the context of refund time limit. If it is made under protest, time limit will not apply. 6 months as earlier, 1 year now. This time limit will not apply if the payment is made under protest. One such form of protest is filing an appeal. That is the facts of this case. That appeal has been filed belatedly after expiry of 6 months. Briefly, we have set out the landmark decision on refund, Mofathlal Industries, 89 ALT 247, where consequent to introduction of unjust enrichment concept in the year 1991, this constitutional bench of Supreme Court in the year 1997 upheld the constitutional validity of the concept of unjust enrichment, and subsequently Supreme Court has held that it is based on equity. This is for your information. Next, another decision in the context of refund claim. The issue was, as there is a concept of unjust enrichment which says assessee will be entitled for refund if he can prove that he has not passed on the excess duty paid by him to any other person. This issue becomes very important when the duty relates to a raw material or input purchased by him and consumed in the manufacturing process. Captive consumption. In solar pesticides case, it was decided that even in case of captive consumption, the assessee has to prove that he has not passed on the excess duty to the customer by including it in the cost of manufacture. He has to show and demonstrate that additional duty paid by him in excess has not been passed on, even though the raw material or inputs on which excess duty has been paid is captively consumed. And interestingly, in this case, tribunal held and distinguished the solar pesticide case, saying that decision applies to raw material. In the present case, the issue relates to capital goods purchased, and therefore the solar pesticide case is not applicable and hence not hit by the principles of unjust enrichment. And Supreme Court disagreed with this and held that the concept of unjust enrichment will apply even where the capital goods is captively consumed. You have to prove that the excess duty which you have paid and you are claiming refund has not been passed on. However, it was also remanded on facts. Sir.
See, it's like this. Unjust enrichment is a concept where if you are passed on the incidence of duty, this is the terminology used. If you are passed on the incidence of duty to another person, you can't get the refund because that man has to get the refund who has borne the incidence of duty. So, in calculating this amount, what are the factors you take in? Is it only the finished product excise duty, or is it the raw materials and capital goods which are costed in a way, the cost of them also enters the price of the finished goods? Supreme Court said raw material cost ultimately enters the finished goods, and therefore the concept of unjust enrichment will apply. Similarly, they said the cost of capital goods also is costed into your final products, and therefore the incidence of duty is passed on. This is the judgment of the Supreme Court. See, what happens is getting refund now has become a Herculean task. First, every notice is issued saying unjust enrichment. You produce a CA certificate saying there is no unjust enrichment. Then these people hold back the amount for lack of funds. Either way, you are not getting a refund. See, unjust enrichment also, let me tell you, is very difficult to establish. Department cannot say that they have passed on. How will the assessee say he has not passed on? Very tough. Because there is no test. Can you say that conclusively that the cost of all this has not been passed on? What is the test for it? If one looks at the profit and loss account and you are making a profit, It means you passed it on. Can you say that?
So, actually, if the product is given by the market price, which are the cost plus.
See, if the product is driven by cost price, let us say market price, does it mean the incidence of duty has been passed on? I don't think so, because it is quite possible that first few years you may be making a loss, then you may be making a profit.
Maximum we can put in our books of account.
The problem is, if you put it in your books of accounts as recoverable, they say no, yes, you are not passed on. That is a wrong test. How I show it in my books of accounts does not show whether I passed on or not passed on. I may show something as recoverable, but if I am making profit, I would have passed it on.
They are not telling you, if before the test will get only maximum.
So that is the reason why any of the judgments that we are discussing on unjust enrichment, nobody is clear. Nobody is clear.
Is it subjective, sir?
Highly subjective. Nobody is clear. Highly subjective. Nobody knows whether you are passed on or not passed on. See, no businessman will do business without passing it on. Let's face it.
That is the best thing.
The certificate from CA is what everybody does. But even, let me tell you, even the CA has to be careful, because there is no way he can prove that it is passed on or not passed on. How will he know? So what is the measure he adopts? It is shown as recoverable in the balance sheet, and therefore it is not passed on. Where is that principle? In accounting principles, showing something as recoverable from the government does not mean I have not passed it on to the buyer. This is no question, no court has questioned, because they don't know accounting. If they come to know accounting, you are in trouble.
Next issue is a valuation one. In this assessee Mahindra Ujjain Steel Company, it's a group company of Mahindra and Mahindra. It was receiving certain raw material supplied from the group company, and the issue here was they demanded duty under Rule 8. Assessee was contesting that it is the job work which has been received by group company, and after processing and sending back the goods to the group company. Therefore, Rule 8 cannot be applied. Rule 8 under central excise valuation relates to captive consumption or captive consumption by a same unit or a sister concern. And department demanded, saying that they read there is another rule, Rule 9, which says that Rule 8 can be applied when the parties are related. They tried to link it to another rule and demanded the duty under Rule 8. However, Supreme Court said that in this particular facts of the case, Mahindra and Mahindra and the assessee Mahindra Ujjain Steel, even though they are group companies, they can be termed as related person under the definition of interconnected undertaking. And that interconnected undertaking is not referred in Rule 9. Therefore, they said that primarily Rule 9 itself is not applicable, and hence Rule 8 cannot be made applicable. That's how the SSC got a favorable judgment in this case. Finally, Supreme Court held that rather than Rule 8, you have to apply Rule 11, which is a residuary evaluation rule in this particular case. Sir, any comments?
It makes the job of the assessing officer more difficult, because you go to Rule 11, you will have to come back to the rule for captive consumption again at Rule 15. Exactly. So what will happen is Rule 11 is the best judgment. So which is the best judgment you can do? Cost plus basis. So back to square one.
This is a issue relating to valuation, where the royalty paid, whether it is includable, I would just elaborate facts so that you can appreciate. Here the artist has paid the, has given the copyright to the producer on a royalty, and producer has given the copyright to the distributor on a royalty. Distributor has given the job work to the assessee, KRCD here, for duplication. of the music content. And KRCD, which is the assessee here, has paid excise duty by including the royalty payable only on the music content, because as per the valuation norms, they have rightly included the by applying rule 6, they have included only the royalty. However, department wanted to include the royalty which has been paid from transaction 1, that is from the artist to the producer, from producer to the distributor. All the royalties just above this transaction, department wanted to include in the value of the CDs and demand the differential duty. However, in this case, Supreme Court held that Rule 6, which pertains to this royalties and artwork and design, which has to be included, is not applicable. Therefore, assessee has rightly included the royalty payable only on the music contents, and he is not liable to include the royalty which is not inextricably linked to the contents. Sir, I would like to mention there is one case, Pepsi Foods here, which has said that royalty has to be included.
Here, I think it is slightly different here, because when the CD was there, the distributor of the CD is the owner of the copyright. In other words, he gets the ownership of the copyright because it is transferred. For a royalty, of course. The person who undertakes this process of duplication has only to duplicate and give it back to the distributor.
As a job work.
As a job work. He doesn't sell the products. The rules talk of a situation where what is to be included is when you sell a product. That is one. Second thing is, the person who does the job work is in no way connected with the royalty that is paid on the other transactions. The maximum that he will be concerned is with the royalty on the duplication that he does. And that is restricted to the design pattern that is there in the CD and not on the entire contents that are there. So based on those facts, the Supreme Court said that this royalty which is paid by the distributor cannot be included in the value which is payable by the job work. On that facts they distinguished.
The next issue is relating to the valuation, wherein they wanted to add the value of the bought out items which are not manufactured by the assessee. It's a short decision where the department wanted to demand by including the value of bought out items. Supreme Court held that bought out items are not liable to be included as they are not manufactured. Next decision is again on SSI. Here the interesting fact is that the name Pete is a surname of the director. Department wanted to deny the SSI exemption, saying that company is using the name of another person. Ultimately, Supreme Court has held no, this does not get covered under the restriction given in the notification, because they are only using the surname of the director. It is not a brand name of the another person. On that finding, they have allowed the appeal.
In fact, they could have done it based on the name of the company itself. The company itself is Pete Brake Motors. So I am using my own brand name. We get into all this director, all this judgment. So on that ground itself, they should have allowed it. My own brand name I am using. I may borrow the brand name from somebody. There could be family names, for example. Agarwal is family name. This way, if I am an Agarwal, he is an Agarwal. I use Agarwal. Does it mean I am using his name? See, this is all happens if you give exemption and put 100 impossible conditions. Everybody will work around it to do something.
Next decision in Sanjay Industrial Corporation is on the limitation as to whether a bona fide belief in a certain process being not amounting to manufacture, whether it is sufficient to establish that it is being barred by limitation. Considering the facts of the case where another assessee was facing the same adjudication and got a favorable order as far as the penalty is concerned, Supreme Court held that there is a bona fide belief on part of the assessee. Hence, the demand is barred by limitation, only normal period demand is confirmed and penalty was waived. Next issue, this is a very important one, on the sales tax incentive. The facts were that in case of Rajasthan state, there was an incentive scheme given under VAT law where 75% has to be retained by the assessee and only 25% has to be paid to the government under VAT laws. The issue here was the dispute after 1/7/2000 is the issue under the concept of transaction value. Assessee is not paying 75% to the government. He is only paying 25% to the government. Even though he is collecting 100 rupees, he is paying 25 to the government. That means he is retaining 75 rupees with him. On that basis, there is a decision which was rendered last year in Super Psychotex, and now it has been followed by many other decisions. There is a subsequent decision also which is in the slides, which have held that from 1/7/2000 onwards, you have to add back the amount which is retained by the assessee under a sales tax incentive scheme. For that, they have relied upon the definition of transaction value, which has that price actually paid, and also there it's a very elaborate definition of the term transaction value. There, the term actually paid is used. Therefore, on that basis, Supreme Court has concluded.
So, transaction value, if you see the definition, it says it does not include the amount of duty of excise, sales tax and other taxes, if any, actually paid or actually payable on such goods. So, what is actually payable can be deducted. So, here they say you have got an incentive to the extent of 100%, you have got a deduction, but you retained one portion of it. What is actually payable by you is much lower. Therefore, because you have retained that portion will get added back to the transaction value. It's based on this definition. Actually payable, paid or actually payable, actually payable. If it was just put payable, then the decision would have been different. But because they used the word actually payable, whatever you retained as incentive will be added back unless it is passed on. That is the judgment.
Next decision also relates to the same one, on the sales tax incentive. Next one is on the deemed manufacture, where there was no manufacture as far as the traditional sense goes. They were only packing, repacking, labeling activity was done by the assessee, and on the basis of chapter notes to chapter 29 and 32, department demanded duty, which I have set out the chapter note here, saying that where labeling or relabeling of containers and repacking from bulk to retail packs was used. However, please note, as Sir mentioned earlier while discussing the definition of manufacture under section 2F, certain clauses were brought in later and amendments were also made to chapter notes. Now, this decision is only of academic importance because this particular chapter notes have been amended to say or in place of and. This particular decision relates to a period prior to 2008 when this amendment was made.
In other words, when this chapter note was introduced, it was a labeling or relabeling of containers and repacking from bulk to retail. That means first you should repack from bulk to retail and then relabel. You should do both, then only this becomes manufactured. So Supreme Court had held in many cases, unless you do both, there is no question of manufacture. Then they put an R over there. That means you can either relabel or label or repack or they plugged that loophole that way.
Next one is purely on legal issue. If there is a conflict of decision, the tribunal has to refer it to a larger bench. This is also on legal issue. Tribunal, in where the particular case is not represented, where the authorized representative has not appeared for hearing, then it cannot dismiss the appeal. It has to pass an order on merits.
The ex parte order is not allowed. You have to pass appeal on merits even if the party does not appear. There is one, I think it is based on a decision in income tax. Mudaliar's case. 7180, there is a decision which says no ex parte orders can, because the tribunal does not have a power to dismiss an appeal for non-appearance of the party. They can only dismiss the appeal on merits.
Next.
Yeah, one question on the previous thing.
Ex parte?
No, on the demanufacture, but it is a bulk product is sold as retail. Now, to go back to the syringes case, okay, it is bought in bulk. It is packed as a retail product and then sold. So doesn't it become as a retail, as a remanufacture?
See, please understand this. The tariff is split into many headings that you are aware. If in that particular heading there is a chapter note which says sterilization of syringes amounts to manufacture, if they have put that, then sterilization will amount to manufacture in that. Why they have never put that is because then the logic which Supreme Court pointed out will apply, because every doctor will be sterilizing 3-4 times in the hospital. Everything will become manufactured. So what they do is they select certain chapters where they feel these things happen and then they put a manufacture note. If the note is not there, then we go back to the general principles of what is manufactured. Whether there is transformation, other things. That is how you distinguish between these two cases.
So in that sense, demanufacture would probably be only for retail products or not
necessary.
Mainly, it is not necessary, but mainly. Where they feel, see for example, many people import products. They repack it and sell. There they deem it as manufactured because a substantial amount of value addition is made. But the law doesn't allow you to tax value addition. So you introduce a deeming concept of manufacture.
This sir mentioned about Bailey. Even that is a deemed manufacture. Filtration of a water is also because on facts filtration cannot be manufactured.
Cannot change water into something else.
But they have deemed it to be manufactured under that chapter.
Suitability to use.
Huh?
Suitability to use will change. Suitability to use.
Even chapter 28 also includes packing, repacking also.
Which one?
Chapter 28.
Yes.
Yes, chapter 28 has. There are many chapters which the chapter 29 has. They have inserted this to tax those value additions which are happening on a large scale.
Now we will go to customs. There are few decisions, important ones. There are about 3 decisions.
The ICMC held ilva? Sumo credit.
Yes, I want.
Head before we go to customs, just deal with that one. It's an important thing for these people. Some of them may have this.
So much of credit is the issue here. The facts were that assessee had reversed the SEMA credit by mistake. However, having realized that it was a erroneous reversal, he took back the credit on his own. So moto credit, recredit. The department's contention was that so moto credit taking is not permitted. You should have gone under section 11B route, applied for a refund claim. After you get the refund claim, then you can take the credit. However, considering the facts of the case, and the High Court held in this case that as assessee has reversed erroneously without realizing that he is entitled for an input service credit under Rule 6(5), it allowed the suo motu taking of credit. And related cases are also I have given here. Another Karnataka High Court decision in Motorola India case, and tribunal decision in Sopariwala Exports, which supports that you can take suo motu credit.
Correct. Essentially this, when you touch your nose, how do you do it? This way or this way? Department wants that way. Simple. If I have made an error, I can correct the error in my Senvat books itself. Rather than go through a long route of asking for refund, not getting it, and waiting ad infinitum to take the. This is what the department wanted to do. Yes, but Chennai High Court rightly said if you have made an error, you can correct it. Why should you go through a refund process? Simple.
This is a customs case in SRST. The issue was whether the technical services on installation of an imported plant in India. After the import, this particular plant is installed in India, and technical services is rendered by the foreign vendor. The technical service charge paid to the foreign vendor, whether it is includable in the value of imported machinery. That was the issue, and department demanded duty, differential duty, by referring to Rule 9(1)(e) of the customs valuation rules, saying that these amounts have to be included. However, Supreme Court held that this being the post-import expense relating to an activity which happens after the goods have been cleared into India is not included.
Essentially, it's like this: costs that are necessary and as the condition for import of goods has to be added. When I import, if I have to import the goods, I have to incur certain costs. Those costs will be added. If after import I have to incur certain costs, they have nothing to do with the import of the goods. So technical service, if there was a condition, I will not supply you the goods unless you come to me for installation commissioning, then it would have got added. Because it's a condition of sale that you should take services from me. But here, there was no condition of sale that you should take the services from me. Condition, the sale was done. After that, you could approach anybody for installation commission, come to me also. That way. So, what the Supreme Court said was, if it is something which happens after the import transaction has taken place, you cannot charge duty on those activities which are post-import, and it's not a condition of the sale. Simple proposition.
As a precautionary measure, in violation of the normal maximum cases when the plant is being installed, so we are importing so many goods, and then we have to take their services because they only, just like it's EPC control, a different type of contract, like goods are imported.
Correct.
They have to make it installed and even testing and everything.
Absolutely.
So therefore, then there should be two separate contracts. If they combine, otherwise.
Absolutely. In all this, there are only two separate contracts, and this is not a condition of that. See, invariably you will go to, see, tell me, if I go to, he has an expertise in those particular goods. He is shipping it to me. Whom else will I go for installation and commissioning? Another thing which you have to look at in the context of today's transactions, forget other things. Installation and commissioning is a service. This is a service. Therefore, if it is a service under the Finance Act 1995, I am going to pay service tax on it.
Under the reverse charge,
Under the reverse charge, I have to still pay. Why do you insist on paying customs duty? This is a case which was before that. That's understandable. But in today's thing, I am saying this transaction value also will have to be diluted. Exemptions have to be given that if I am paying service tax, the question of paying on that component customs duty again should not arise, even if it is a condition of sale.
Because it's like when excise duty is payable, no service tax is payable.
Correct. So I can't have double taxation on the same activity. One under the customs law saying it's a condition of sale of goods. Another under the Finance Act saying that it is a service. I can't have two taxes. I cannot have double taxation on the same activity. I think this, the rigor of Rule 9 of Customs Valuation Rules will have to be reduced by suitable exemption notifications that are issued. But if I am paying a tax in India on reverse charge, I should not be, tomorrow facing a case on customs.
Next issue relates to exemption from CVD. When there is a condition that under the notification that if the SENMA credit is not availed, this exemption will be available. In that context, Supreme Court has held, by following the decisions of Hyderabad Industries, it has held that CVD exemption is available even if it is not, in fact it is impossible to meet as a condition that non-availment of SENMA credit. I think this case is also given in the case of Malwa Industries.
Essentially, it is this. I will give you an example. It's an interesting thing. If I manufacture a product in India, I don't need to pay duty. Exemption is given if you don't take SENMA credit. Let us assume. I can't take also. Exemption is given if if you don't take SENMA credit. Let us assume. That is the condition. Now I am importing the product. What the department says is, whether that man abroad took SENMA credit or not, we don't know. We don't know. So we will charge you excise duty. That is CVD when the product is imported. Because we don't know whether he is taking SENMA credit or not. So Supreme Court says that is a condition which cannot be satisfied. It can never be satisfied.
Impossible.
It is impossible for it to be done so. And therefore the exemption should be given, because you should have parity between the two people. You are looking at parity of goods. If it is there, even level playing field has to be provided. If in India that condition is satisfied, he does not pay. Same thing should be applicable to goods which are imported into India. That is the principle in this.
And the last decision of the session, this is Wipro Limited. It's a very interesting case where under the customs law there are certain percentages as far as the transportation, loading charges and insurance are concerned. When you import a goods, apart from the value, the valuation rules also specify when the transportation charges or loading charges or insurance cost is not ascertainable, then there is a specific percentage mentioned, 20%, 1% and 1.125% is specified in the valuation rule. As far as loading and unloading charges is concerned, the specified percentage is 1%. As specified in Rule 9, there is a proviso which says that for all three items, in the year 1989, there was an amendment which said that if these costs were not ascertainable, then you go for 20%, 1% and 1.125%. However, in the year 1990, there was an amendment which amended this Rule 8 to say only in case of loading and unloading charges, the words not ascertainable were omitted. That means, as far as loading and unloading charges, as per the valuation rules, it was mandatory that you have to apply 1%. Because the word were not ascertainable were omitted in the year 1990. In this background, the present case was that assessee imported a certain product, about 350 kgs, and actual loading charges was only about 65.4 rupees as per the International Airport Authority per kg. But however, the department wanted to go and apply this 1% as per Rule 8, which where the words not ascertainable has been omitted. That means 1% of loading charges has to be mandatorily applied. And this went up to Supreme Court, and after discussing the section 14 of the Customs Act, which and also highlighting the fact that golden thread of the valuation is the actual cost principle, Supreme Court held that we have to read down the amendment made in the year 1990 to say that 1% of loading charges cannot be applied mandatorily when the actual cost is ascertainable.
Actually, it's a good decision because in IT industry, the products, the loading unloading is very negligible because the weight of the product is very less. But the value of the products is very costly. So in this case, if you see loading, actual loading was 65 rupees. But what was loaded as payable is 15,000 rupees for the purpose of calculating customs duty. It was a huge amount difference. So it was correctly challenged that the principle here was either actual cost or an ad hoc figure if the actual cost is not ascertainable. Where it is ascertainable, you apply the actual cost. Where is the question of you going to ad hoc figures? This was the principle behind which this was applied. For transportation, the clause was actual cost or 20%. Insurance and other things also it was actual. Only loading and unloading they had put a blanket 1% without referring to the actual cost. So the Supreme Court rightly read down this rule.
So in this case, amount is 15,000. Maximum duty will be 5,000-6,000 maximum say. For that, expenses could have been more.
No, this is a principle because Wipro will be importing in bulk.
No, this may be per kg. If you multiply this cost, what is given in this fact.
That is one. Another thing which is very important is they are importing consignments.
350 kg and the charges 65 will be taxed.
As per the international tariff, there is a tariff.
See what happens, sir, is this, sir. They are importing in crores.
So based on this logic, say in the year
The cost will come down drastically. The duty they pay comes down. So that adds to your margin, no? It is a fit case where the Supreme Court did interfere, and they would have surely worked out the effect of this case for carrying it up to Supreme Court whether it was worth it. They would have definitely worked out that cost. It will, otherwise no businessman will go.
I think with this we conclude our discussion on the excise and customs updates.
These are some of the updates we thought which is important as far as case laws are concerned, which we could give it to you. There are some other case laws which are there, but we have not dealt with it, maybe 4 or 5 of them, because we have classified them as not that important as these case laws are there. So I think with this we can conclude this session.
Thank you.
Lovely session.
Unless you have any doubts.
The very pitch and the tone with which he has been talking has been so much appealing to all of us. We have really enjoyed the session, sir. For the job well done, ladies and friends, please give him a big round of applause. Now I request CA Parmeshwar-Kumar to come forward and present the memento to both the speakers, Raghavendra and Raghuraman. though the house is not full, we had a quality crowd today. Nobody walked out before the inclusion of the session. People have really enjoyed the session in spite of the heavy raining outside and all other issues that they are facing. So thank you very much for your kind help in handling and addressing today's session. Last but before concluding, I would like to thank each one of you for your active participation for this session. Thank you very much. Good night.